We're live for a very special session for the Vitrina podcast. This is part of our LeaderSpeak series. We are welcoming today Ken Mainardis, who's joining us all the way from New York. Ken is Senior Vice President at Getty Images and Head of Editorial and Head of Content at Getty Images. Ken, what a wonderful pleasure to actually have you speaking with the Vitrina community today.
Thank you, Atul. It's absolutely wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have a packed agenda for our conversation. Getty Images is a very big brand within the community, and it's actually sort of changing its own model, being very flexible. We spoke about that a little bit ago. One of the places that I would love to start was just the elevator pitch for Getty Images for the film and TV entertainment. What is it, and how does it work with the film and TV and documentaries entertainment sector?
I mean, I think I can do the elevator pitch, and even one floor of the building, because we really try and keep it as crisp as we possibly can. And it's as simple as this: using content can be really complex, and it can be really constrained. Our goal for the production industry is to unconstrain our partners' creativity and our customers' creativity. And so we really focus everything around our relationships with the production industry and making it as simple as possible to access the enormous sort of depth and breadth of video and stills that we can make we can put on offer to the industry.
Fascinating. And then you are at this point as Getty Images doing this at scale. It's a global company. There are sort of multiple offices. You can also sort of talk a little bit about the scale and of the operations and the coverage.
Sure. We have 1,700 employees. We have over 1 million customers. We work with nearly 500,000 content creators. Whether they are individual creators or big, right up to the largest organizations like the BBC and NBC. It's as you say, we are a scaled organization that celebrated its 30th anniversary this year. It's scale that has been achieved over that entire 30 years, and throughout those 3 decades, I think the strongest feature of us achieving the scale that you're talking about is the ability to adapt and evolve to changing markets, changing environments, which is really relevant, I think, to the production market right now.
Fascinating. And in the same breath, Ken, if you could sort of talk a little bit about the different divisions and businesses that, especially with the focus on the film, TV, and documentaries, the scripted, unscripted world.
Sure. I mean, we're essentially organized into an editorial business, news, sport, entertainment, and archive, a creative business, which is our Getty Images premium stock content, as well as our iStock content for small, medium-sized businesses. We operate a freemium offering via a business that we acquired a number of years ago. It's called Unsplash. And so really, when we think about customers in the scripted, non-scripted production space, it's very easy to immediately bias towards our news, sport, entertainment, and archive. And of course, that's where there's a huge amount of value for production partners. But we really do offer a one-stop shop right across the full breadth of released and unreleased content, as well as asset types of video stills. So our goal has always been to attempt to be that one-stop shop.
Fascinating. And then, one aspect that I was actually curious about was that, let's say a new production house has an idea. At what point or in which circumstances should they actually sort of place a call to Getty Images? And just in terms of the entire supply chain, as they go through their initial concept and the development process, the production process, the post-production process, and then the final release. If you can walk us through how the supply chain could ideally interact with different aspects of Getty Images.
Sure, and that really relates to what I was saying about unconstraining that process. So the very short answer at the beginning of that is as early as possible. We are open to a conversation about projects really early in the ideation process.
Hmm.
When I talk about unconstraining, I also think there is a huge value that can be brought about with the expertise that sits behind our content. We operate the world's largest privately held archive of video and stills. And there is a huge amount of expertise that sits behind that content, around the context behind the content and the stories behind the content. And when that marries with the incredible world-class creativity and knowledge that sits within the on the client side, on the production side, at the ideation stage, those two sort of powerhouses of expertise can do really, really special things. So that's the beginning of the process with ideation. We then can make the content once we develop a slate of content that's required for a project. We can then make that available in really, really flexible ways, whether that's on a per clip basis or per asset basis, or whether there is a bundle of content that might be required. And we can do that at different economic models built for every size of budget. And then increasingly, for certain projects, we're open to conversations around potential joint ventures, potentially even including content into a project as equity in a project. And so that again, that talks to what we're trying to get to, which is sort of unconstraining and being flexible in the entire process. I think it's also really important to say that the use of this content is not just necessarily targeted as part of the supply chain at the making of the program or the making of the project. Our content can also be cleared for commercial use, and so is really valuable in the marketing of that project and the creation of the marketing materials and collateral that sits around the project.
Fascinating. And that perhaps also, is a good lead into the co-production and the co-pro sort of approach. Is that more recent to Getty Images? What was the light bulb moment to sort of, actively go into co-pros? And how long has that effort been sort of active?
We've been steadily growing an approach to co-production now, I would say, for at least 6 years. But as we know, I would probably set the context more along the lines of production has been an ever-growing community of partners and customers to Getty Images now, really all the way through our evolution over 30 years. That really accelerated, I would say, about 10 years ago. And then we've all seen over the last 6 years very, very different shifts in that part of the industry, whether it was COVID, the strikes and things like that. And I think throughout our history, we have seen shifts in the macroeconomic environment and the industry environment that requires to evolve. And so it's just been a kind of organic thing, I think, that makes us realize if we're going to continue to be the best possible partner and best possible supplier, then we do need to be flexible. And co-production is a really, really interesting conversation to have. You can't have it around every single project, but where there is clear sort of line of sight to value, then we're absolutely happy to have that conversation.
Interesting. Any case studies that come to mind, specifically relating to maybe something which was, let's say, large scale, on the other side, maybe with indies? How do you, or projects that are currently running at this point that you think are super exciting from that perspective?
Sure. There is in Europe. There's been there's a Flintoff cricket documentary that is very interesting. There's an upcoming Matchroom boxing documentary around the legendary Matchroom sort of a stable in boxing that is a really, really interesting project. Quite a lot of those those type of production companies we've been having conversations with in that regard. I would say it's probably about five this year. So to give you a sense of the volume, it's that would be where we're at.
Got it. And again, off late we've actually seen some really successful global documentaries in sports. Box to Box Films has been super active with Netflix. We've actually seen that genre really explode on streaming, and some of these are global themes. So from that perspective, I'm sure you're seeing those developments with a lot of interest.
Absolutely, and we work really closely with Box to Box, and have done for a number of years. So yeah, I think that is not something that will dissipate. It's only growing. Sport is this sort of miraculous genre of content that is able to survive the economic environment. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world at any given time or the economy. We all seem to have an insatiable appetite to consume sport, and it's no different in the scripted and definitely in the unscripted space.
Right. That's right. That's so true, actually. And again, we're seeing this really sort of take shape on platforms like Netflix, Prime, YouTube, in a big way. Moving gears a little bit on the other side of the business, which is the archival piece. Again, you have a very strong practice within Getty Images, and then you also have some partnerships. If you can maybe talk a little bit about that part.
So we, as I sort of touched on briefly, we have we own the world's largely privately held archive that dates back to the birth of photography. It's really important to. It's a really special experience to be able to engage with that content when you're delving right back to the middle of the 19th century and the beginning and the very beginning of photography. What is really interesting about that, I think, in the production space is it's not just the content that's valuable, it's the context and stories that sit behind it. And so we often find production companies find it very valuable to tour these archive locations. We have 3. Our main location is in London. We have a space in Paris and another one in Pennsylvania. And it is kind of like a treasure hunt of ideas when you spend time in those archive spaces. Because yes, there's unbelievable content which can feature in shows, but there's also this wealth of knowledge and, as I said, context that sits behind the materials. Only about 1% of that archive is digitized, and so literally you could be opening materials or you could be discovering materials there that haven't been previously looked at or discovered for 100 years. And being able to do to be able to, so as I say, have this kind of treasure hunt of ideas. And that often fuels production and fuels ideas for production. So that's really important. And then on the other side, as you rightly say, we partner with the BBC, we partner with NBC, ITN, Sky, TV New Zealand. And we're always looking to add large video libraries to our offering. And that sits as a very important part of what we offer production. On the other side of things, in the scripted space, as well as all of that content, on the stock content I mentioned on the creative side of the business can also be really important to be for establishing shots and that kind of material, and we license a lot of that into production as well.
Fascinating. And I'm guessing that all of the archival material is actually sort of available for licensing, but is that also in some cases where you're excited about a particular project, you might actually sort of bring in that as a co-pro sort of component?
Yeah, when we're excited, where you see a line of sight to a commercial outcome and where you see a demand and a partner is able to really outline that demand, just as any co-pro conversation. We are absolutely interested in bringing in partners, some of our partners into that conversation, so that their content is part of that equity that's going into a project. Fascinating.
So is there a project qualification criteria that you sort of look at, when you're sort of looking at the, new projects, ideas coming in?
I mean, I think we're much like everybody else in that we are monitoring and looking at the data that is sitting out there in what is performing at any given time. You've mentioned sport, you mentioned true crime, certain types of genres of history, And once we see that line of sight, that absolutely becomes a conversation. I think we're hearing. I think it's important to say that we as the content expert, as supply experts, we are very much here to be guided and driven by the production experts. We don't enter that conversation driving what should be made. When you're talking to a box to box or some of the true masters of the genre, these are the guys who really know what is going to be what is going to be to be the most successful shows, and that's we're really interested in having those conversations with organizations like that, companies like that, specialists.
Got it. And again, I'm sure our community is getting energized by the 1% digitized comment that you made. Sports, true crime, biopics, history. There are just so many exciting themes that just never die down. Right, unsolved cases to legendary sort of events and sports themes. So I'm sure a lot of folks are sort of having their own light bulb moments as they hear you speak about these. One aspect was relating to how do some of these producers actually sort of look at the archive, especially if it's if only 1% is digitized, right?
So there are about 80 million assets online, so there's no shortage of content online.
Right.
But once you have decided you would like to explore the archive further, we offer tours to production companies of the archive. And we offer access to the space, and so get in touch with your local Getty Images office, local representatives, myself, and we are always happy to arrange access to the archive, because, as I say, that moment of discovery is often a moment of ideation as much as supply.
That's right. Fascinating. And then just in terms of getting a lot of that the search and retrieval digitized, how's in the world of AI, is that one of the places where you sort of deploying new tools, new tooling, new technology? How's that going?
Yeah, it's certainly a focus. We have what we believe is the leading search on our platform today, but that is absolutely a keyword-driven search, and we are very aware that there is a lot of opportunity by deploying machine learning to our search. It's something that we are working on aggressively. When we launch a machine learning sort of optimization of our search, we will do so when it is working absolutely in the most premium way possible. I think it's possible that some suppliers launch solutions when it is not quite yet ready for prime time. Given our history with a very, very high quality search experience, we will do that in the same way. And it's going to be a very exciting development the day we do that.
That's right. Again, I mean, some of the possibilities to sort of go into scene level, searches to what the spoken word is from the.
I think there's super exciting opportunities where you will be able to absolutely search at scene level, search at script level, search at a context level. So you may begin with an individual search, but quite quickly you could start to find all of the different strands that of historic background and contextual background that might come from that initial search. I think machine learning is opening up a very, very exciting future for the content search strand of the business, for sure.
Interesting. One element, again, we talked about the fact that Getty Images is a global company. If you can talk a little bit about the flavors of different regions, and from your vantage point, how do you see different countries, markets, regions perform? Scripted, unscripted. I mean, there is a realization inside Vitrina, for instance, that Asia or APAC, with the exception of Australia, is largely scripted, heavily scripted, right? Very little of unscripted there. But again, you have a very different lens and you have very different experiences from your vantage point.
No, I think that's right. I think we've seen Europe, driven largely by the UK over the last decade, be a real sort of leader in the unscripted, very, very high quality documentary space. Um, the US in non-scripted, but much more personality driven, much more sort of around sort of the personality. I think is and that doesn't just necessarily mean celebrity, but I think that is an accurate statement. I agree with your comment about Asia being scripted, but I think what's so interesting about Asia is there is this, in a world where we hear quite a lot, don't we, thrown around about there is a lack of ideas, perhaps in some parts of in sort of traditional markets, and I think there is a very interesting. It's early, but a very interesting developing opportunity where untold stories from Asia, from the subcontinent, but also from Southeast Asia, can form the basis of really interested projects. Some of the untold legends and myths and all of those things that aren't part of what you could call traditional Western storytelling can become really powerful. I can be powerful projects.
Wow, fascinating. Yeah, I can again see a lot of cultures in Asia trying to tell their stories, especially in some of the few lost decades. They're going back to the archives and again sort of trying to tell that story. And I'm sure, that becomes a pretty exciting.
And there's a huge well of storytelling, isn't there? There's a huge reservoir of storytelling in Asia that is not being accessible necessarily to Western storytelling to this point.
That's right. And one of the compulsions of the broadcast and cable model was that you had to get into scripted. You had to come in Monday to Thursday, Monday to Friday programming. I think with the emergence of streaming in Asia as well, I think streaming is introducing a host of new genres. And I'm sure you're sort of seeing that with excitement, with the possibilities of new genres that were unexplored.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, and I think there's also, although maybe not directly answering that question, but I think is also we see a very interesting large investment in high quality skills in Asia, whether that's in Southeast Asia or in the Indian subcontinent. There is growing super high level of execution in production, which is going to be the foundation behind all of these projects, right? Very exciting.
That's right. Again, one aspect that has absolutely sort of moved from a needle perspective within the entertainment sector is that the action in the US has come down a little bit, only to be compensated by a lot of other action in places like Brazil or Japan. Germany is a very hot market right now from all of our indicators, right? We are actually sort of picking up massive actions in certain of these hotspots, right? Again, in some of these markets, when you see a shift happening, how does Getty Images sort of react to those? Are you do you end up sort of expanding your archive?
Yeah, no, much in the same way that I've outlined elsewhere. But we begin with wanting to engage with projects as early as possible to be bringing our content knowledge with the expertise of the project or the shift in a specific direction. In this, you mentioned Germany, and then when it comes to the actual content, we actively, if we feel that we have gaps that we could fill, or that there is a developing shift in a certain direction, then absolutely we will go out and we're always adding partners to our roster.
Fascinating. And these partners could be across news, sports, the aspects.
These partners could be news, sports, archival. They're absolutely video and stills, and they could be in specialist subject matter areas. We recently added the world's largest motorsports archive to Getty Images. We acquired that. So that would make us I think without question, the number one source of motorsport, motoring, not just motorsports, but motoring content dating back into the 19th century. And that's very much a reaction to seeing how certain industries or certain the consumption of certain genres of content are moving. And motorsports clearly has been on a booming area for a while.
F1 is already in playing in theaters, and it's getting absolutely rave reviews. So that totally makes sense.
It's I don't think your listeners need to be told what an amazing impact the production industry has had on the F1, the sport of F1.
That's right. Fascinating. No, that again is another case study for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the case study. It'd be interesting to see how other leagues and sports try and replicate that in the coming years.
That there is an idea right there, and I'm sure that there are certain sports where you just have things going back several decades. That again make for great storytelling from that perspective.
Yeah,
right. One aspect. I wanted to sort of take two elements for our remainder of our conversation. One is just in terms of workflow integrations on both sides of the equation, right? One is during the concept and development side, how involved are the interactions there, and then on the other side, during production post, do you have to go back to checking certain rights? Just the collaboration that you have to maintain on those sides. And then the next segment, I want to sort of look at roadmap. Getty Images in the next 2, 3, 4 quarters, with just so much of buzz with AI and so much of buzz with new techniques on production. Those are the two segments that I would love to sort of
Yeah, sure. There was let me try and just get exactly where you were. Your first question, I think, was about rights and integration, and so I think it's a good place to start is rights, because we are constantly thinking about the rights and the needs of a project as we're having a concept conversation, and we do that right at the very beginning in ideation. And we continue to sort of check that against the project as we run through from ideation to sourcing the content, and as the customer and partner is executing their project. As I said at the beginning, using content in an editorial sense or an editorial purpose for an editorial use within a project is extremely standard and very available. But all the way through, we're also thinking about is there a need to clear content for commercial use? So it's not just necessarily part of the programming or the project, but it's also can be part of the marketing, the collateral that sits around the launch, and all of those things. And so from a relationship perspective, we're extremely integrated in that conversation and want to be integrated in that conversation all the way through. There is opportunities to be technically integrated via our API as well. So, we can actually open up a connection directly from our databases and our archives directly into a partner if that is something that if there is the demand for that sort of volume of content. So I think that answers your question.
It does. And rights is always a question mark, especially for archival, and I'm sure that comes up very, very early in the conversations.
Absolutely, that's right at the very beginning, and we are constantly checking with the partner that they are getting the rights, and then we can we have an entire research team and rights and clearance team that can work with a partner on those discussions. As far as roadmap goes, I think, absolutely. We've touched a little bit on search, and we're very, very keen to be advancing and optimizing and improving our world-class search to be even more beneficial and sort of save customers time and make our content even more discoverable. So I think, watch that space around discovery. Our AI generator, which we launched about 18 months ago, we're very, very proud of. It is incredibly aligned with our position as far as AI goes. As you know, we've been very public about the ethical use of AI. Our AI generator is trained entirely on content that is cleared, and so that will not generate content that will provide customers with legal issues. We've seen so many, unfortunately, other AI solutions generate content that creates legal issues for their customers. And we stand by that indemnification of the outputs of our AI generator all the way. And we will continue to invest in that space, always with in mind that the content that is being created and the content that's being used to train our AI solutions is also paying out content creators. We really believe that the future of AI and content is going to be only truly valuable if content creators continue to be motivated to include their content in the training of those models, because the refreshing of the model is so key to create new exciting content. And that is very, 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 very key part of our strategy. Really important, of course, to say that none of our editorial content is modified or generated via AI, but we have a very, very high wall that sits behind our editorial business and AI.
No, and again, Getty Images has been very vocal, in just making its stand known, and its ethics sort of transmitted to the rest of the industry.
Yeah, we think it was a really important time to make a stand. We think for our editorial business, I think we wanted to. We believe that in a time where it's becoming increasingly difficult to discern whether what you're looking at is real or not, that you need to know 110% of the time that your supplier is providing you with something that's authentic and real. I even sort of accelerate the word authentic, because I think authentic can be a bit of a wishy-washy word when we talk about AI. I think I really mean real content. And then on the other side of things, we are in the creative space. Of course, we think that AI can drive creativity, but it has to do so in an ethical way.
That's right. No, that totally makes sense. The one aspect sort of that comes in mind, on the AI part, friend or foe, is it competition, or is it is it sort of galloping some of your initiatives forward? How do you sort of look at AI and generative AI within that?
That's really what I was talking about, in the sense that generative AI has the potential to be a really powerful tool in creativity, to drive creativity. But it has to be executed in an ethical way. And by that, I mean that the models that generate AI-generated content should be trained on content that is cleared and are not going to break trademarks and logos and likenesses and all of those things. And the content that has been used to train should pay back to the creators whose content was used to train. And so in the editorial side of our business, absolutely no generative AI, no AI modification. What you see there needs to be real. But on the creative side, where you're creating content for commercial use, we see a real opportunity, but it has to be ethically structured.
Yeah, that's right. No, that is fascinating. And again, it's an emerging space from that perspective. Ken, my last question really is, in some of the new relationships that you are sort of excited about or bringing on, news organizations, sports clubs, large event company events. Can you talk a little bit about that piece? Is that always sort of expanding, or are you sort of making any new sort of initiatives in that regard?
I would, yes. There is always a new one, but I'm not necessarily going to share things
Okay.
before press releases are issued. But you're absolutely right. It's a very, very large focus for us. The exclusive relationships we have with over 100 now sports governing bodies, leagues, and clubs, as
Wow.
well as entertainment organizations, like Vanity Fair and the Met Gala and the Golden Globes and the Academy of Motion Pictures and Arts. These are really, really key because they enable us to create a sort of a value chain through the industry. Both we create value for our partners, our sports and entertainment partners, through the licensing of their content, and in the return for that, Getty Images is privileged to get very, very superior access, which creates better content, which creates value. And so you can imagine, yes, we are always looking and having conversations with sports and entertainment rights holders about where we could expand that exclusive access, and it's a big focus.
That every time that topic comes up is very, very exciting to sort of know. I'm sure a host of folks listening to this podcast are getting light bulb moments on that part, especially since you mentioned 100 sports clubs and sort of bodies. So
I was talking about this with a partner yesterday. In fact, the history of these relationships is really interesting. If you go back into the sort of the the middle of the 20th century, a lot of the exclusive, most special content that was shot back then was the result of just individual relationships between a photographer or a videographer, and a celebrity or an athlete. Rightly so, the sports and entertainment industry came around into the 21st century and said we should be making some money on the back of these relationships.
That's right.
Right? And we're very proud of the fact that we have built that structure and that process and those relationships so that we do create a value chain around the relationships and the content. And it's not just a photographer meeting a footballer on the side of a pitch anymore.
That's right. No, absolutely. And again, our key sort of focus is to expose a host of those possibilities to our ecosystem. Ken, this has been a wonderful conversation. I think lots of very exciting themes coming out from our conversation today. I'm sure you and your team will be getting our network reaching out to you for some of the ideas that they may want to share, both from archiving the archival perspective as well as the co-pro possibilities.
We're really excited to have those conversations. We love your platform. We think Vitrina is a fantastic platform for the industry. And thanks so much for making the time for having a chat with me today. Really, really enjoyed it.
Likewise, thank you so much for speaking with the Vitrina community.
Thank you, Atul. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.